Maximus Analysis here for January 22nd, 2016. We see that the bulls have really gave a really sweet day today of follow through. Again, they need to hold above this 1880 area. But again, they gave some follow through and you had a lot of names that were again very, very beat up. And I use the word oversold, and I saw somebody post something, which is good response. So things can be oversold for years. It all depends on the time frame you're doing, and oversold typically to me just means that you don't want to sell or chase anything, because there's people that try to sell here and I'm like, listen, this is not, wait for a proper setup versus trying to take the breakout. But anyway, let's see what they do in response to the 1950 area on the upside. So let's see how much juice they have for the 1950 area. That would just be basically around a little bit above this midpoint of this prior swing down. Let's see how much juice they have going into it. Again, one day doesn't make or break a trend. Now, for the short term, we do have a trend to the downside, and we've been having chop for the last year and a little bit, and we want to see if there's going to be some type of institutional follow through to happen in the next week, because again, one day up, if they start drying out of volume around that 1950 1960 area, we will look to try to reshort, especially if they give a lower high from these previous highs before. So if they don't have enough gumption to at least get it back up, and not in just 1 or 2 days, and maybe using a weekly time frame, because this could be over the next 3 to 5 weeks, all depending, we kind of will see how this thing is gonna play out. So again, I guarantee you a ton of people kind of said, listen, I'm gonna take the hit on my 401k before I have it go in half like it did in 2008. So we'll continue to see how these things play out. Let's look at the end. Let's look at the YM. YM gave you about 200 points, pretty much the same thing. Needs to get above this 16,750 area, 17,000 area before we look to be overly confident on the bull side. Again, not saying that it could break down, but again, this is just one day up, but it's a very, very strong day. So even on the weeklies, we do want to see some, we do see some follow through. Now, this is the last buy signal that we had around here. So that, again, they did give you the follow through and a strong close finally. So again, we want to see how it reacts at over the next week or two, getting up to that 4,400 level. We did the YM. CL had a huge day today. Again, that gives you more of like, this is a huge day in regards to price action. So anything over a daily of $2 to $2.50 is a big day for crude. So let's look at the weekly and see if we're going to get some type of retracement. And again, we want to see if it gets, what type of retracement it does up to this $37.80, $40 range. Okay, so again, we could see a couple more weeks of up, but we just want to make sure we're looking at both sides of the picture here, because if it, people will try to call the bottom, and again, like I showed yesterday, again, it could take more than just a couple of days to make a top or a bottom. It's not just a one, you know, it's not just this type of an event to say this was the bottom. It was the bottom for here, but again, it's going to take a little bit of, and they got a lot of overhead supply to chew from. So let's look at some equity names. You had a huge day for crude, for Apple. They gapped up and stayed up. We also had Amazon that was up as well. It really didn't look that good in regards to how Amazon looked in retrospect of things, and they just got right back to this previous gap low. So we want to see how much it's doing. The volume hasn't really shown much, but again, if you're in already, cool, you know, but again, we just want to see more than just a pop-up. We want to see some follow through for more than, we want to stay over these lows, honestly, but more than 3 to 5 days. Okay, so Baba, we saw it actually gapped up and it faded back down. Also had Baidu kind of doing the same type of deal. Facebook looking good, held the 200-day moving average, and looks better for sure once the volume increase, which could be nice, going up some more. Fitbit, again, it is where it is. Google up about, you know, gap and small range candle, but again, volume dying down. But let's see what we have going on. let's see if we're going to get above these areas. Well, this was the earning gap up. We want to see how it plays into that because we churned sideways. So let me get rid of some of this stuff so we can kind of do some analysis on this. So you have this churning of sideways, being that when I say churn, I mean that all of it never layered on top of a previous high. It just churns and churns and churns and gaps down. We have to see how this retracement looks, and the retracement to me needs to stay, if it gets below here, this retracement right here is still where it needs to get above, or it could still be set up for a short. IWM, again, it was been so beaten up in regards to the thing. It has a long way to go before we look at even a bullish type of thing. Again, if you're playing the retracement, there's nothing wrong with that. You should get a retracement over the next week and a half, theoretically. But again, we know how the markets have been. Priceline gave another pop, but again, it's still looking very weak, but it just needs some follow through. Netflix, I don't know what's going on. It's not participating at all. After the earnings, it has not participated at all. And on a day like today, you would expect at least for it to get a dead cat bounce, and it didn't even do that. So still going to kind of keep our eyes out on Netflix and what it's doing. And also Tesla, just given slight days. I mean, it's just giving little recoveries, gap ups, coming back down, gap up, coming back down. So volume kind of light on here, but still needs some type of a better type of pattern. You can see the grinding as well. And I thought it was going to pop up here, so I'm not going to be one of those, hindsight guys. Again, I play this, so the gap down sucked. But again, it's just a matter of saying you try your best to manage risk. And unless you trade in futures, you have those type of overnight gaps that can be annoying. So that's pretty much it. Again, out of the down names, the big ones that actually were up were the Goldman Sachs. Again, it's still in a painful type of situation in regards to where it is in the trend, but we will look and say, okay, you got a long way to go before you can convince us that this is anything really, really bullish. You also had Apple, again, down name, treated accordingly. Disney still, I mean, it can retrace all the way up to this gap. It's still a sell. But if you're going to play this, just understand that that's what you're playing. And if you're fine with that and that's your strategy, good to go. You also have Home Depot that, again, faded off at the end of the close. Chevron, ExxonMobil up about a little bit. I think American Express had earnings and they really got ripped to the downside. So again, all the usual names. IBM was still down, and you had GE that actually still just hovering around its 200-day moving average. So we've seen a lot of action going both ways. It's been a short week due to the holiday on Monday. But let's see how much follow through we got going on here. Again, the ES is in a much better shape for at least the retracement. But again, we want to see how it reacts at certain midpoints, because if you've been looking at the videos, the midpoint of this chop was around an area of 2080, and it was pretty much getting hit constantly. So midpoints are important. And let's just keep that in mind when we're looking at this bounce. We don't want a dead cat bounce. We want some legitimacy in regards to that. And we're going to see some really strong bars moving forward. All right, take care. Have a great weekend, and we'll trade them again next week.